I was realizing, today and the last couple of days as we get set for this game, I have a very familiar feeling. This is the Lions' chance to do what we've seen teams do before. How it ends, how the story ends this year, next year, beyond, how this era of Lions football plays itself out, well, that story is yet to be told. Sports aren't scripted. These aren't movies. Anything can happen in a game. There's a lot of logical reasons to like the Lions, but one of the things that makes sports great is the unpredictability. Sometimes unpredictability leads to tremendous upsets, and we have been the team that has been rooting for the tremendous upset because our team was in need of a tremendous upset. They were in need of doing something, out-of-body experience to get a win, and now we're in a position where our team is favored, and we're hoping like hell it doesn't happen. But I think back to the Red Wings when they were climbing the ladder to get to the Stanley Cup, and the first time they made the playoffs, and some of the heartbreaking losses along the way. And, oh my God, look, they're in the Stanley Cup finals. And okay, who's this New Jersey team that then proceeded to sweep them? And I think about, and then eventually they got to the mountaintop. I think about both incarnations of the Pistons. The Pistons, the bad boys. In the early years, the first thing you have to do is you have to beat your peer group. And at the time when the Pistons were just making it to the playoffs, the peer group was teams like Atlanta. And I remember them getting past Atlanta like in an early best-of-5 series, and that was a big deal. And then you're trying to level up. Is there any way you can level up and beat the Celtics? And you can't until you can. And now the next rung on the ladder is the Lakers. Can you beat the Lakers? Well, they couldn't until they could. And it was just every year another step forward, right? Same thing happened with the going to work Pistons, where the teams that their peer group included like New Jersey and Indiana. And then it was, can they get past those teams? And then it was the Lakers again in the NBA Finals. And they kept, working their way up the ladder. And this Lions team, like the first sign of this was a team that just barely missed the playoffs at 9-8, where they went into the final weekend of the season with a chance to go to the postseason. And by the time they took the field on that Sunday night, we knew that they had no chance, but they went out and beat the Packers anyway and finished 9-8. That was kind of the first step up the ladder. The next step then, of course, was to make the playoffs. And they kind of skipped that level. They won the division. They didn't just make the playoffs as a wild card. They made the playoffs and won the division, so they got to host a game. So they took 2 steps up the ladder, but then lost in the NFC title game. The next step, and they've talked about it, and Dan Campbell mentioned it, and the team has talked about it. The goal was to be the 1 seed, so they didn't have to go on the road for that NFC title game, and they've accomplished that. And so are they going to take that next step up the ladder? And I've cited the Red Wings organization, which eventually won multiple Stanley Cups, and we cited the Pistons, 2 teams that climbed to the top and won championships. And then the other example is the Tigers. Like the Tigers made a pretty rapid ascension and went to the World Series in 2006.
The other thing with the Lions, though, that you see them taking the steps, it's that they're also on a little bit of a revenge tour. Remember for years they couldn't beat Green Bay, and then they started to beat Green Bay a little bit. But beating Green Bay at the end of the season a few years ago to go 9-8 and just miss out on the playoffs, that game to me really meant something. It meant something for the organization. It meant something to the players, meant something for the coaching staff. It was like, that's the first step towards redemption because the Packers had everything to gain with that game. They played at home. They needed that game. They needed to win that game to make the playoffs. Everything was set up for Green Bay. The Lions had nothing to play for. And they went out and they smacked the Pack. And it's not up in here. And they went out and won on the road, and it catapulted what they did last year. The revenge tour is in full effect, though. Then they played the Rams in the playoffs. That's a little bit of revenge factor. Took care of that. Started the season with the Rams this year. Got Seattle early. Let's take care of Seattle. They did. They've slowly taken care of all of this. Is there any revenge in the history intended for the Lions against Washington? Has Washington ended Lions' hopes at all in the past? I know it may seem like forever ago because it kind of was forever ago, but that's the team that kept the Lions from getting to the Super Bowl before.
I don't look at it that way at all.
I'm going to.
You okay?
I'm going to try to cultivate more of a chip because otherwise we got, it's just It's a game. It's businesslike, and I think this team thrives on having that chip. And, there were a couple times in my life where I thought the Lions were a really good football team, and then Washington said, oh, that's cute, and smacked them right down. There's an opportunity tomorrow night for the Lions to say, no, yeah, I know that what you guys are doing this year is pretty cute, but we're going to smack you down. We got bigger fish to fry, but it starts tomorrow night.
I feel like you're speaking as a fan.
I am.
Thank you. Because the past, I'm with you, Doug. It means nothing to this current regime, these current players.
Recent past would.
Yeah, but not like from 1992 or even like
years ago.
Exactly. That doesn't matter. I mean,
you don't think Chris Spielman's letting them know about it?
I think they're letting them know about last year and that plane ride back from San Francisco. I think that's what they're remembering. And it's not revenge, it's avenge. And I think the year difference with the experience is a huge difference. I think being at home is a huge difference. One of the things that happened in San Francisco is when they started losing momentum, and Dan Campbell said this after the game, they couldn't get it back. Because when they're on the road, it's tough. I think if the fact that they're at home, if anything does kind of go not according to plan, I think being at home helps calm you down and get that momentum back. They're just built for this. They're resilient. It doesn't matter how many injuries or what happens or the losses or the bad calls. They seem to bounce back better than anybody I've ever seen. And so that's why I feel pretty confident about this team, although it's playoff football, which makes me nervous. But I just love the mentality of this team.